From the agave fields of Jalisco, Billy's Tequila. Perfect in a margarita or straight over ice. Celebrate the race of life with Billy's. Use code RACER for 5% off at billystequila.com. Please enjoy responsibly.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my Darlington Raceway. You were overhyped by drivers, still it was a good Sunday. Such a great track, but no throwback, thanks to bad ones all the time. There's a Racer 45er, one is fourth in record time. For the Biffle, RFK still brought three pieces that look fine. Brad and Busher had the speed too. Chris is mad at 45. Oh my darling, oh my Darlington, oh my Darlington Raceway. You were overhyped by drivers, still it was a good Sunday.
Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Happy Hour program presented by Billy's Tequila. Save 5% off when you use the code RACER. Once again, billystequila.com. I'm your host, Mr. Brian Nolan, alongside my two compadres every single Tuesday, Mr. Michael Massey, Dalton Hopkins. Dalton, I'll start with you, my friend. How are you this Tuesday night?
Doing great. I'm recovering from a slight sunburn from Darlington because I don't ever wear sunscreen. That's not because I don't believe in sunscreen. It's just because I forget to put it on. And you think I'd know better living in Florida, but that's not the case. Yeah, actually, Darlington was great as always. I love that racetrack. It's fantastic. I think the racing was good. It was a good, just a solid, good race. We'll get into that later, but I'm excited for this episode. It's gonna be a good one, and I am I'm ready for the next streak of weeks that we've got coming up here because we've got one of my favorite tracks coming up in Martinsville this upcoming weekend.
The guy that's going to be in Martinsville is the guy that is on my bottom right-hand screen, Mr. Michael Massey. Massey, are you getting excited for the paperclip? How are you, bud?
Yeah, I am, and it's supposed to be some nice weather out there, like warm weather. As opposed to sometimes you go to Martinsville and it's a little bit chilly, but always good time with the paperclip. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Trey Lyle will be there with me, and we'll hopefully have some good coverage.
And the man that I feel like is like at every single racetrack. I don't even know which racetrack he's going to be at this upcoming weekend. He covers IndyCar and NASCAR for Fox Sports, the one and the only Mr. Bob Pockrass. Bob, let's answer that question. Are you going to be in Barber or are you going to be in Martinsville this weekend?
Well, it's Tuesday night, and there's still a couple of days for a decision. But right now, my travel plans have me watching cars turn left and right. So, and not turn right because they got hit by another car trying to pass. So that's an indication. But reserve the right for if anything happens over the next couple of days. Not expecting that would, but that I'll probably be going to Barber Motorsports Park for the IndyCar race this weekend. And, that's then, there aren't that too many IndyCar event races over the next 5 or 6 weeks, just one in Long Beach in the middle of April before the month of May really gets going. So I'll have probably some Rockingham, some Bristol, some Talladega, some Texas, all on my schedule coming up.
I love it. You are a traveling man. I mean, every single track, I feel like I'm like, is Bob there? Sure enough, he is there. Dalton, how about you lead us off with our first topic? And I think it's the topic everybody loves to talk about, silly season.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say, I think Fox Sports is probably investing time and effort into building a teleportation device to have Bob somehow at both races each weekend. I'm sure they would love that. But until that time, glad to see the covers that Bob puts out. But yeah, we do want to talk about, I know it's early on. I know it's only March right now, and we're, 6 races in only. But look, this has already been hyped up as one of the bigger seasons of silly seasons. So naturally, we like to ask when it comes to people, when it comes to guests that we bring in to this podcast that are let's say, more involved than we are, more have more relationships and more have the more inside scoop than we do. Bob, what do you foresee anything? I know it's early on, but do you foresee anything when it comes to this early season?
Well, I think everybody was thinking at going into the year, what about Tyler Reddick? And of course, and it wasn't about whether 2311 wanted to keep Tyler Reddick. I think it was more about, did Tyler Reddick want to stay at 2311? He hadn't won in 2025. There were certainly teams that were willing to pay for him, thinking of his potential. But now, after winning 4 of the first 6 races, you got to think he wants to stay, right? You got to think that question was answered. And now, can he get into a bidding war? Potentially. But I think it's going to be a lot harder for a Hendrick or a Spire to lure Reddick away after the start that he's had than than it would have been 6 or 7 weeks ago. So you look at him and as a key player who probably stays. You look at Kyle Busch, and I think that's kind of that's kind of the opposite end of that spectrum, right, Dalton and Brian and Michael? I mean, when you look at it, you're like, oh, does Kyle want to stay at RCR considering the struggles they have? And so I think he is kind of the key to silly season. And the other key I would say is Bowman, right? And now that he has been out for for a month or more now, is what it looks like. What does that do for his prospect of returning to the 48 and or potentially looking elsewhere? And I think we all focus. I continue to ramble on silly season, is that we all focus on who's up this year, but I think it's more potentially about who's up after 2027. And you have, of course, Denny Hamlin, who you don't expect to return. You look at an opening there. You look at Connor Zilic, believe he could potentially be up after next year. Typically, Trackhouse does 3-year deals, and this is his second year under kind of their banner. First year being loaned out mostly to JRM, and I think Blaney and Elliott are both up. I'm not sure about Elliott. I shouldn't say that, but Blaney is, I believe. So you look at some teams and you're like, gosh, there are people that potentially other teams would want, right? And so where do they play in? Because I think Gibbs knows they're going to have an opening, but if you're Hendrick, do you try and make sure that you have somebody open if you want to go after Zilic? If you're Penske, do you make sure you have somebody open if you want to go after Zilic? And I think when you talk about Penske, that's a big one too, because you look at Austin Cindric is up after this year, and with the way he's running, you potentially could see him getting re-signed, and you potentially could see him also kind of having to find a ride as well.
Yeah, I think that top 5 at Darlington should help him out a little bit at least. But the guy I wanted to mention was Daniel Suarez. Like, I think a lot of people were, there's been a lot of talk like, oh, Kyle Busch might go to Spire next year in that 7 car. But do you think the Daniel Suarez having in the opening to the season that he's having is going to make it harder for them to make that decision if that is someone they want to go after?
Yeah, I would say the only driver who's kind of set at Spire beyond this year is Hocevar. He's just, obviously just announced a long-term deal there, and I think he stays there. I don't think anybody buys him out. I think that is the perfect place for the Hurricane, right? For they love him and he loves being there, and so you look who are the other 2 drivers, McDowell and Suarez, and right now they've both been driving well, and I think it certainly does impact if you're Spire and you say, hey, do we want to spend, potentially a lot of money on Kyle Busch? And if so, who would be the odd person out, unless they want to try to run a 4th car without a charter.
But Bob, you mentioned the 48 car, and I feel like there's a little bit of just uncertainty because obviously Bowman has still got the and still recovering though. But it feels like they have someone in the pipeline in Corey Day, but they're not going to rush him up to Cup so soon. Could they slide in someone for a full year, say potentially like a Kyle Busch for 1 year, and then when Corey Day is ready, they insert him into that fourth HMS car? What is your sense with that number 48 car?
Well, Brian, I think when you talk about that, it's like, why would you slide in somebody to replace Alex Bowman for a year without just signing him for 1 year?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like,
no, you're
right.
Fair.
That's
a good point.
I mean, the way Alex Bowman, especially with this, now Grant, he had an awful start to the season, but I think most people looked at this point system and said, it's made for Alex Bowman to make the playoffs, right? A driver who is typically very consistent and, doesn't necessarily win a ton of races, but, typically is somewhere between 8th and 14th in points. So, yes, they could, but my question would be, why would you do that? If Alex Bowman is willing to fill that role, and I think he, unless somebody else was coming with more money and more years, I would think that that he would, that he certainly would stay for another year.
We got a question in the comments. Scott Mag 7650 says, who will be driving the third car for Legacy?
Yes, good question. I think you hear Jesse Love's name thrown around a little bit. So will RCR try to lock him up, or will he go over there? And I think there's just gonna be I think there's gonna be some options. You talk about a Josh Berry is up, Noah Gregson's up. Riley Herbst, could he go over there? If he doesn't run extremely well, you figure that Corey Heim is going to probably be in that third car. I think the question is that if they go to, Legacy will go to 3 cars. So then what happens at RFK? Do they get a charter? And does that charter come from, is that Cody Ware's? Do they try to buy the charter that Cody Ware currently has? Do they try to buy out Haas's charter? And does that make Cole Custer available? And then again, like we were talking about, is Suarez going to be available? Is McDowell going to be available? But I do think that RFK does have the ability to run a third car unchartered if they need to, and because I really think they like the lineup they have. But both Keselowski and Priest, from my understanding, still both have to, re-up for next season. Obviously, Keselowski, you feel like, if you feel like he would, especially with, it doesn't look like that the leg injury is anything that would potentially keep him from continuing to run. But, and I also wouldn't consider John Hunter Nemechek. I would consider both him and Eric Jones, I believe, are either up or have options on their deals for next year. So I wouldn't potentially say that that they will be back. Where could they go? And again, there's going to be some other rides that open up, and I think it's going to be one of those silly seasons that that a lot of it's just going to depend on on what teams do. Stenhouse, it's an option year for him. They like him there at the 47. He likes it there. But you never can tell. So does Allmendinger want to continue? That's kind of like the yearly question, that you don't really have answered till this year. It seems like Ty Dillon has found a little bit of a home there at Colleague, but again, if someone has sponsorship and can come in, who knows what happens. I think the bigger question is like, is there anybody else who's ready to go to Cup from Trucks or O'Reilly besides, obviously you have Corey Heim, but, and, you would say like Austin Hill, if RCR, he kind of seems entrenched there, right. And likes it there. Yeah. Jesse Love, what does, again, what does he do? But are there really any others who you'd feel like are ready to move?
Yeah, one of the things I was actually going to bring up, Bob, was one of the tweets that came out in the last, actually over a week ago, was it's from like the Popular Couch Racer account, but it was about RFK, and they quote, and I'm quoting here, saying all 3 RFK drivers and crew chiefs are racing for jobs in 2027. Stressful for them, but fun for the fans. Is that realistic? I mean, because can we expect like a shakeup there? Because I think it's interesting to say that.
And I believe Busher is signed beyond this year. So,
Right.
I mean, but look, anybody can be bought out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing.
Mhm.
Like, look, Spire paid Corey LaJoy, right? They're probably, so they're paying Rodney Childers for most of last year without him working. So, I mean, when we talk about contracts, there are very few that I feel like, oh, well, that that you say, well, that person will definitely be there. So, but yeah, I think I think Keselowski, I would think he feels pretty safe. I think he talks to the owner on a daily basis, and if he wants to race, which it sounds like he does, and he's healthy enough to race, and it sounds like he does, that he should continue. I think the other key will be, what does Dodge do, right? I
Mhm.
think do they go, they said they want to go cup racing. They said they would wish they could go 2027. I think everybody looks at what their performance and say, man, they probably should wait till 2028, right? But as they get their kind of get their stuff together, so we'll see. And I think when you talk about them, and is Kaulig going to be their anchor team? Kaulig certainly is positioning to do that, but I still feel like it's kind of a tryout type of basis for them. So who goes there, or what do they do? And I mean, could you see, like, if Kaulig is one of those teams, and I know they were close and then kind of had a little bit of a falling out, but like, if you're Dodge, do you want somebody like Kyle Busch, right? And say, okay, run full-time truck for a year and help us start testing our cup car and start doing the simulate, and start doing everything. And, we'll pay you a lot of money to be kind
Yeah.
of the face of our new program, and to help us, figure out figure out the car, and where we can use some help. So I think that's the other key, is what is Dodge's plan? And even if they aren't going cup racing in 2027, is there somebody out there that they want to sign to be the face of their program, even if they're not running full-time cup in 2027, so where they find them somewhere to race next year while also working on development toward 2028?
Bob, you mentioned Kaulig and everything with Dodge. Is there another team that you could see Dodge going with? Obviously, we saw Keselowski drive a Dodge, but that was way back in the day. Could maybe RFK potentially have any interest in Dodge? Have you heard anything about that?
I mean, I would think they would have interest. I mean, I think it'd have to be, a good program. I think the hard part right now is that Dodge does not have a simulation program, right? They're working on that. And I think it'd be really risky for a team that gets simulator time to go to a program where they're not confident in that program. So, but I think if I'm Dodge, I'm calling RFK. I'm probably calling RCR, right? Just to see, granted, they've been Chevy for a long, long time, but where are they in the current Chevy pecking order, right? Where especially if Spire is coming along and running better, right? So and I would look at, I would say Spire, because of their Hendrick relationship, is probably more likely to stay Chevrolet, but and especially because their own, granted, their owners are Honda and IndyCar, but they also have the Cadillac F1 program, and I would think they're probably more likely to stay Chevrolet than not. But I think it all just depends on how much money Dodge is going to put into the program, both on the competition side as well as the marketing side.
Feels like a move that Trackhouse would make if they're, because it feels like Spire's kind of jumping ahead of them on the Chevy pecking order. I don't. Could you see Justin Marks
Absolutely.
picking up?
I mean, I could see it. I could see it. I mean, not saying it will happen, but I
Yeah,
certainly
sure.
can see Trackhouse as a potential, certainly somebody that you'd be talking to.
Yeah.
Again, who has the ability to put together an engine program for you? I would think, RFK obviously has, if they were to go, they'd obviously have to break away, the Roush Yates portion. But, I think they certainly have people who probably, uh, they probably would have more of an infrastructure to be able to do that. RCR would have more of an infrastructure to be able to do that. Trackhouse would have to probably create some of that infrastructure and probably need more kind of foundation money than the other two.
I know for one thing, Bob will be all up on the latest with his stuff at foxsports.com. Let's dive on into our second topic of the evening. Michael, what is our second topic, my friend?
So a lot of people have pointed out that Tyler Reddick has a big points lead right now, and there was a lot of that. It was gaining momentum and late in the season and in the off season of maybe going back to a full season points, which would fans be complaining right now if it was full season points? I'll give you my thoughts in a second on how this is all shaping up, and plus the win bonus, like that's helped him to get way ahead. He'd only be 35 points ahead, or no, 50 points ahead, because Blaney also got the win bonus. But yeah, what do you guys make of how this format is playing out so far? Bob, we could start with you. Just are you
Well,
glad they didn't go full? Go ahead.
I was never a full points system person when you have a 36 race season. I
Yes.
I like having a reset. And in fact, I'm not I know that the way they've run the points and everything, they say you have to be top 5 or top 6. I mean, I think if you're top 10, I think you have a shot at the title. You would need some help, but if you can get on a strong run, like Tony Stewart did, in 20
11.
go back, was it
2011.
2011.
Mhm.
It would, it can be done. And so yeah, no, I mean, I like a reset. I kind of like the elimination. I never liked the one race championship, but I certainly I mean, I wanted this type of I wanted a chase playoff type system to begin with. So, and certainly, when you look at the points right now, you I mean, it depends how you look at your champion, but I do think the chase format is the toughest championship to win, because in a 10 race schedule, you really maybe can have one mulligan, possibly two, but to be great over those 10 races, those battles between Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon, where, even if you average a finish of 5.5 or 6, it wasn't guaranteeing you a championship over 10 races. I mean, to me, that's so tough that was kind of the toughest championship to win.
It's interesting, Bob, that you say that even if you're in the top 10, you have a shot. Because I remember we were at the Care Center in Phoenix when Chase Briscoe, I think you asked that, either you asked that or I asked that, and he was like, if you're not in the top 5 or 6, you realistically don't have a shot. And it's interesting that you say that's in the top 10, because I look at a guy like Chase Briscoe currently in 22nd. I mean, he still has to have solid finishes, but I mean, like what Matthew was saying, is those extra bonus points for the wins that's really helping Reddick. I mean, with 4 wins, you're getting all those extra points for wins. That's going to go a long way, and I think it is going to make it a lot more interesting because of the extra points, because of the wins.
Well, I mean, you can see Briscoe winning Darlington and Talladega, right?
Yeah.
And in the playoff in the chase.
Yeah.
And so if you add one more of those tracks, that with the bonus points for a win, if he's what, let's see, even if he starts 70 points back, if he can make up you know, 50 points, 50, 60 points based on just a few wins, and those first two or three drivers don't win, right? And you look at the points right now, beyond Reddick, obviously Reddick's won 4 or 6, right? And Blaney's won once. But if it stays this way, if the one guy, if one or two of those drivers don't run well and the other doesn't win, you've got a shot. You've got a shot to make that jump.
For the record, I just wanted to say that I've always said that 36 races was too much, at least for a full season points format. Just because like we're in we cover a motorsport that has one of the longest seasons out of any motorsport in the world. So just want to point that out there, okay? But yeah, I think that when it comes to this points format, like the original topic was, about who, is this points format really making the sport better? And I kind of feel like it is, in the sense that look at Tyler Reddick. I mean, he's on this legendary run where he's won 4 of the first 6 races. Only 2 other drivers have done that in NASCAR's history. And he's 95 points ahead, which is actually more than the distance between second place to 16th in the point standings right now. So it is nuts. It is nuts. But you know what? He deserves it. He deserves that because he's won so many races, and that team has been very successful. And I don't think anybody would be doubting that if the championship were to end at Martinsville. I don't think anybody would doubt that. But I think really where the question lies is, for me, is 16 positions too much? I think you two both know where I stand on this, but when it comes to this chase format, I mean, we've been talking about how if you're first 6th, like that's really about it. Bob says top 10. If you want to go on the legendary Tony Stewart run, okay, fine. But is for everyone else, like, why even bother? I kind of wonder what the whole thought process with that is.
Yeah,
I was going to say that it's about sponsorship, right? And it's about and drivers. I think it's compared to. I think first off, they knew that drivers had contracts that said if they made the playoffs and sponsor contracts, so they didn't want to mess it up. I think that would be NASCAR's answer in the sense of like they knew that if they went lower, that could potentially impact some contracts and cause things to have to be renegotiated. But I don't mind 16. I mean, I think look, if there's 36 full time drivers, then you say that 16, a little less than half have a shot to make the championship. I'm good with that. I think it gives I mean, I think when you look at the NBA playoffs about to start, and that you have those playing games for the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds. I mean, at least it gives it may take an incredible Hail Mary, incredible set of circumstances, but at least it gives a team that has had a what you would say is a good year, something to kind of hang their hat on.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think of I was talking to a friend of mine that's a Miami Dolphins fan when they signed Malik Willis.
Man, bless their hearts.
Yeah, not this Dolphins, but when they signed Malik Willis, he was like, I don't want that because they're just gonna be a first round playoff exit every year. So like you see that in other sports too, where like just because the team's making the playoffs year after year doesn't mean they necessarily, if they're that 16 seed, they don't necessarily have a shot. But I'll play devil's advocate to this whole playoff thing. I do like the chase. I it's so much better than the one race, but I wanted the full season, and I do think that I still believe, even with a 95-point lead, it would not be a blowout championship because the other guys haven't gotten their bonus points yet. We've seen in the next gen era, nobody has taken off to win 10 races yet. 6 is like the max of what someone will win. Raddick's already got 4 of his, so he might only win 2 more races the rest
That
of the
thing may
year.
change though. This with the way
It
Reddick's
might.
gone, though, that may change, Massey.
But we're gonna see, the Hendrick guys, Ryan Blaney, the Gibbs guys, like all of them get their 3 or 4 wins and get their 60 points extra, and then that lead is going to evaporate for Raddick. He also has not had a bad day yet, and like he's due a day like Bubba Wallace or Joey Logano just had, right? Like that's the thing that's the thing about stage racing, is that it's much easier to make up points now because you can gain. I mean, if you win everything on the day, you can gain 74 points on a guy in 1 week now. So like it's 95 sounds like a lot, but it's really like we could see that evaporate quickly. So that's why I still think in the next gen era, the old system, it wouldn't have worked. You had guys clinching way beforehand, but I think in the next gen era, it's so much closer now that one of these days I would like to just see it for like a year. But I'm good with what we have now. I am happy with that.
I just, before we move on, I think one thing I do want to say about the 16 people, it does allow somebody like Chase Briscoe a better chance to climb himself back in, although I don't think he'll have much trouble in doing that for the end. I know we're still super early in the season, but at the same time, we are 6 races in. There's 26 races, so there's 20 races left. How late is too late? Or excuse me, when is the time to start maybe hitting the panic button if you are somebody who is outside of the top 16, like a Ross Chastain or a Chase Briscoe or somebody else below that cut line? I'm kind of curious on what your thoughts on, or I don't know if you've talked to anybody about this, Bob, but I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
I would probably look at Charlotte and say, okay, that's typically the time you look at things and be like, oh, I don't have any shot during the summer. And then I have to go back and look, but you have. I'm just trying to think of number of road courses that you have coming up where, if you're not a road course ace, well, then you're certainly not going to make it up. But like I would look at
You got
I'd
3.
look at
You
the
got
10,
Watkins
yeah,
Glen, San Diego, and then Sonoma.
Mm-hmm.
right. And yeah, so you had so that's not too many, and obviously Watkins Glen is before Charlotte. Maybe probably look at it after 10 races, say okay, this is kind of should have a good base of where everybody's at, and then after Charlotte would probably be where I really might start being like, oof, maybe we need to start working toward next year.
Yeah.
Once again, this is the Happy Hour podcast presented by Billy's Tequila. Save 5% when you use the code RACER here. Brian Nolan, Michael Massey, Dalton Hopkins with our guest from Fox Sports, Mr. Bob Pockrass. Dalton, you and Bob were in Darlington for Throwback Weekend. I want to get your thoughts on the Throwback Weekend. There wasn't a lot of participation. We did see some, but it wasn't a lot. Take me through the weekend from your point of view, and then we'll share some thoughts.
Look, first off, I love Darlington and I love Throwback Weekend. It's a great way to celebrate the history of the sport at a track where history really seems to come alive. I mean, honestly, it really does with the things that they do. It's a great weekend, and I loved when NASCAR was sort of incentivizing teams to produce a throwback paint scheme. I know it was stressful for sponsors. I know it was stressful for those designing a paint scheme or something like that. But man, I liked it. I liked standing on top of the photo tower and right next to turn one and seeing all of those different paint schemes go by with the different number fonts and like I think of Carson Hocevar's scheme. Let's face it. I mean, it looks nothing like what his usual car looks like, but that's kind of the cool part, right? He's paying homage to Dale Earnhardt, and that makes you, when you see that paint scheme, you think of Dale Earnhardt. When you saw, off the top of my head, when you saw Frankie Muniz's scheme, you think of the '93. You think of Dave Blaney. Like it was a really cool way to, produce, to give honor, to give a tip of the hat, a nod to anybody, to those legends of the sport. But now we don't have those anymore. And I know we have the alumni program, and we saw Bobby Labonte, Mike Skinner, Darrell Waltrip. That was really cool to see him come out and talk for a little bit. But I just can't help but feel like it's not at face value. It's not quite the same as it used to be. I'm a little disappointed by it. I know that, I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority of that because I know some people were saying that, Throwback Weekend has run its course, but I don't know. I do miss the throwback schemes, and I can't help but feel like that, yes, I know people are saying running out of paint schemes to pay homage to, but here's the thing. I don't care. Because I like the throwback paint schemes. You could do the same paint scheme over and over again. I don't care, dude. Like, bring it on. So,
Teddy does it every time, and it looks awesome. Wood Brothers, they do.
Wood Brothers does it every week.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like we've seen the Dale Earnhardt Wrangler scheme, freaking like 6 times now. Like, fine, great, man. I love that paint scheme. So, Bob, people care about what you have to say, obviously. Yeah. So let's hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, the Fox guy is going to love the fact that Darrell Waltrip gave boogity, boogity, boogity.
Yes.
And what more do you need, right?
Yes.
I mean, that was awesome, right?
That was awesome. That was really
I was 10 years old again for a few seconds.
Yes.
There,
so that was a cool to see. I mean, look, I enjoyed the throwback schemes. I do think I think the trying to do it by era or anything probably wasn't really didn't work. It was probably just you should just open it up every year. And I think it's a challenge. And I guess the balance is, how much does the joy of seeing some paint schemes versus the schemes that don't work, or kind of shaming those who didn't even try, right? And so what is the balance? So hopefully after this year, maybe find a little bit better balance of encouraging teams, maybe doing something, trying to find a way where, like, hey, if you do a scheme, you can do this or that, or sorry, that you can maybe give them driver points for marketing points, right?
Yeah,
or something like that, and that can maybe encourage drivers to encourage schemes. But and I know and some people were critical of the ones, like that they did schemes that like threw back to their past, or, a team member's past that maybe you didn't recognize, but I still kind of thought that was cool to do. But I guess you could do that, that any week of the year. So I think, I think the question is, what is the balance? And hopefully they can find the balance that they like. And quite frankly, when this first started, how much of it was a throwback and nod to history, and how much of it was a financial thing where you could sell a lot of die casts too, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the other question, is how much merch is really being sold from this. And like, look, you're going to be like, man, that's the worst thing about it, right? You're throwback. You shouldn't be worried about merch, but it certainly was something that was incentivizing teams to do it early on, and the change in that in the merch industry probably has kind of hurt some of the enthusiasm for it from a team and marketing side.
Yeah, I think if we could ever get back to a system where you could have like full season sponsors once again, and it's not just sponsors coming on board for like four races, that would encourage it a lot more, because I get it from the sponsors' perspective. You pay top dollar for 4 races, and they want to use one of them to completely change your logo, completely change your colors. So like, I get why some sponsors weren't on board with it, or just kind of halfway did it. It didn't really do the throwback that good of justice. But yeah, that's kind of fantasy land to get back to that
Yeah.
to that
I
system.
was going to say, Michael wants 38 race point system. He wants sponsor full season sponsors. All right.
And you know what?
Michael, I
Put
know
Rusty
you want to
Wallace.
move the numbers.
Move the numbers.
Put Rusty Wallace back in the 2 car.
Yeah,
Okay.
bring Dale back.
And you want just 2 networks to broadcast the season, right? So I got you, Michael. I know where you're going.
You got to find it on some random network every week, like TNN.
Adjust
or-
your bunny ears and make sure that you got the right signal.
No, but like that, I think even like when it started in 2015, we saw a lot of the field do it, because back then you still had a lot more full season sponsors, or sponsor would have more races at least. So I think that's the big deterrent. But I just think I'm kind of glad that, I'm against you here, Dalton, but I'm kind of glad they quit forcing it, because I think if it's just something you gotta let happen naturally, if people want to do an awesome throwback. And that's what we saw this year. The people that did do throwbacks, they were all really good. There were no like phoned in throwbacks, because people weren't like, oh, we have to do one. So I liked it, and I thought, Fox bringing in DW was awesome. Mike Joy, and that's my favorite week to watch Mike Joy, because it's just nugget after nugget after nugget of all these historical references. And so, I was still in the spirit of it, probably more so this year than I was in like the last 5, I'd say. But that's just me.
Brian,
You're muted, Brian.
muted, young
You're
man.
muted.
Oh, sorry. I personally loved all the Greg Biffle throwbacks, and not just the
Yes.
RFK cars, but Dean Thompson and Brendan Poole. I mean, those guys, they knocked it out of the park. So I mean, I agree with Massey and Dalton here. I don't want it forced, but if you got a cool idea, by all means, go for it. Because I mean, Dalton, you saw the Brendan Poole and Dean Thompson car. I mean, those were spectacular.
Yeah,
The
I
Ram
personally-
ones were really cool too.
Yeah, they were.
That's
The Ram.
kind of why I was like a little upset, because that we don't have that incentive anymore, because I was expecting like a field of Greg Biffle throwbacks, and whatever. Like I know people would have been like, oh, so many Greg Biffle throwbacks, but I don't really care. Like, again, like those were great paint schemes, and RFK I feel like completely made sense. But to Bob's point, you could have done that any week, like Greg Biffle was really good at a few racetracks.
But I think what you're saying, Dalton, I mean, could potentially have, we talked about how they tried to do eras and eras and eras, but do you just pick a driver and say, hey, if you want to throw back to Greg Biffle, or if you want to throw back to Junior Johnson, this is going to be Junior Johnson weekend, or say maybe like on the 30th or 40th or 50th anniversary of somebody's big Southern 500 win or something like that, and say, we're going to focus on just one driver, and whether it's a picture of him on your car, or a sticker, or a number, or something. We want everybody to try to have something to memorialize this great driver. Or maybe you just use the Hall of Fame and say, okay, these were the inductees to the Hall of Fame. earlier in January. Now, of course, now you have all these who you've already missed, right? So maybe you add some of the past Hall of Famers, but do you say like, hey, we're going to do tributes to Harry Gant and Kurt Busch on these cars, and so however you want to do it, if you want to participate, do it that way, or maybe you say Hall of Fame drivers, and maybe those who and then tributes to maybe those who have passed in the last year.
Maybe a group of drivers, not just one specific driver, like Hendrick Motorsports 30th anniversary, like hey, HMS teams.
Yeah.
There's a way we could do this.
We got time. We got another year to figure
Jeff
all
Ford's
this
back
out.
in a Ford then.
Oh Lord.
No, well he did it. He did it. Why not? I just wanted the good full Granger scheme. I just wanted that this weekend. We didn't get it.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Darn it. Let's move on, though, into our final topic of the evening. Once again, this show is presented by Billy's Tequila. 5% off when you use the code RACER. I think it's been a tale of two. Obviously, I know that they won, but it's been a tale of two seasons for both of these teams. On one side, RFK has had a fantastic season. All three of their drivers were up in the top 10, with Keselowski eventually finishing in second. Buescher did falter down. While on the opposite side, I don't know what happened, but Joey Logano was out to lunch. I know Ryan Blaney won this past or 2 weeks ago in Phoenix, but it has been a struggle bus. I'll give it to the group. Which is in better shape for the next few months, RFK or Penske?
I go with RFK because I feel like their drivers are working better together, and only because I think that they all seem to kind of either like the same thing or they're just all very much in sync. And I think, when you look at Blaney's style and you look at Logano's style, and you look at Cindric's style, it's probably all a little bit different. And if you want to throw Ryan or throw Josh Berry in there too, right? Like, I think they're all, I think maybe a little bit different. So I would think RFK is probably a little better off right now. I mean, you look at that they have three drivers in the top 12 in points. And if you look at Penske, you have Blaney second, but then you go down to 16th for Logano and 21st for Cindric. Now, Cindric's probably run better than 21st. I would say, though, if I flip those, I would say that RFK, if they were struggling, would have a harder time fixing their issues than Team Penske. Like, I'm not saying that in 10 weeks we're not going to say that Team Penske is still going to be not running as good as RFK.
Dalton, is this just, in your opinion, RFK getting better or Penske getting worse, or is it a little bit of both?
I kind of feel like that RFK. I don't really see a huge difference out of Penske this year. I honestly don't. Look, Logano's had rough starts the season in the past, and it's an even numbered year. All right, look, it's not the same points format, so I guess
maybe that's dead now.
Yeah, he's kind of you can't really get a win at Las Vegas and get into the championship four. But regardless, look at Ryan Blaney. He's second in points, right? There's nothing wrong with him. He's doing just fine. Austin Cindric got a top 5. He's had a rough start to the year, but it's only been 6 races. Joey Logano, look, you have bad races every once in a while. I mean, ask Kyle Busch in Martinsville in 2022. That was a horrendous race for him, and we never really got an explanation out of that. So it just happens sometimes, where guys will just have a really bad race, and you can afford that every once in a while. I mean, Logano's still in the top 16. He's 16th in the points, so I mean, he's right there. He's on the bubble. But You can have bad starts to the season. It's okay. You'll be all right. And I think Logano is the kind of guy that will be able to, get 1 or 2 wins before the end of the regular season, at least. So I think he'll be okay. I know it's not a win in your end, but I think he can get the consistency that he needs. I'm not too worried about him. Austin Cindric, I think, is a different story, but point being is that Penske, I think the cars are just fine. RFK Racing just seems to have some kind of like, I don't want to say talent, but RFK Racing just seems to have the momentum. I think that's the right way to put it. Look at Brad Keselowski, just came off of the most laps that he's personally led since 2024. Chris Buescher, same thing, Kansas 2024 in the spring. And Ryan Preece is running up there too. And by the way, Ryan Preece just won a Cup event at the Clash. His confidence is up too. So I think they just got momentum. I think that's all it is. I think they've had momentum for the last 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised to see, maybe 1 or 2 wins out of that camp at the end of the year. But the thing is I could expect 1 or 2 wins out of anybody in that stable. With Penske, I think Blaney would be – well, Blaney's already got a win, obviously. But I think Blaney, Logano are really the only 2 guys that can, say, okay, these guys are probably going to win before the end of the regular season. Whereas with RFK, it's all 3 of them.
I think this format exposes Penske's inconsistency more than the previous one. I think they're the same, as you said, they're the same as they've been the previous years. But
saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, because for a couple of years now, that if you go to a mile or under track, Ryan Blaney is going to be up there just setting the world on fire. And that Logano would steal a win somewhere, pop up somewhere and win. Cindric too. But it's just now it's kind of going week to week like this. It's tougher for them. And I feel like for Logano, he hasn't really been the same dominant driver. I know he's won 2 championships in that span, but I'd argue he was better in from 2014 to 2016 than he is now. It's really weird. I know he had Todd Gordon back then, and now he's got Paul Wolfe. I wonder if there should be some kind of shakeup or something. But we say all this. He's 16th in points. Cindric is 20th in points, I believe. So they very much can still pop up. But I don't know. It's weird. It feels a little bit like Stewart-Haas racing right now, where you got one guy that's a threat every single week in Ryan Blaney, like Kevin Harvick was at Stewart-Haas, and the other guys are kind of out to lunch a little bit. Coincidentally, they same spotter in both situations of Tim Fedewa. So it's the Tim Fedewa effect on the places. I'm just kidding, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like RFK is just I know that momentum is just, it's not, it's real, but it's not real, if you know what I mean. And I feel like they're just building and building and building. And I think, Dalton, you said it best. I mean, they started out the season with a win, quote unquote win. I mean, you still ended up in victory lane. So, I mean, that was probably huge for not just RFK, but Preece in general. For Penske, like Matthew was saying, under a mile tracks, when you go to a New Hampshire or a Phoenix, they're going to be dominant. And they are, I do feel like they're going to be good. It's just, I feel like RFK is building something special. And I do expect Keselowski and Buescher to get to victory lane sooner rather than later. Keselowski's been good at Martinsville before. We saw Buescher lose the closest finish in NASCAR history at Kansas. So I do think they will get to victory lane sooner rather than later. Bob, is it? I've heard. I think it was the teardown with Gluck and Bianchi. But in your opinion, is it time to split up Paul Wolfe and Joey Logano?
Oof. I don't know. I mean,
I know.
They've been so successful together, right?
I know.
I mean, I think only if you feel like you have somebody better to put in there.
Yeah.
And Paul Wolfe's a great crew chief. So I think it will be I mean, there haven't been too many times where you feel like they've been this out to lunch, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're talking about a new horsepower, a package where everybody was kind of guessing, and so I think you certainly give them time to kind of find their way. And if you feel like that Paul can't give Joey what he wants, or Joey feels like Paul isn't isn't adjusting enough to what he wants, then you make a change. But I don't think you make a change for change's sake. You certainly aren't going to split up Hassler and Blaney,
No.
right?
Agreed.
And frankly, I think Cindric's been running well with Brian Wilson, and I think so. To me, it would only be if you feel like that either Joey or Paul is tuning the other out just because they've worked with each other so long, and I certainly would give it a little bit more time.
Fair. I had to throw it out there because
it's certainly a question. It's certainly something that you would ask, right? Because you'd say, is 16th acceptable? And going back to what Dalton was asking earlier, if is that the stand? Should that be the standard to make the chase? And then I think the question is like, if you did make a change, then are you taking a step back to make 2 steps forward? And right now, when you're 16th in the points, is that going to impact whether you make the chase or not? And you might say, well, who cares about making the chase? We're supposed to be running for championships.
Mm-hmm.
But it also could be very important to just people in your organization. It could be important to potential bonus structures, right?
Mm-hmm.
of people that you still need to make the playoffs and the chase. So so then I think the question is, if you do make a change, how is that impacting things not just long term, but potentially short term as well?
One final question for you, Bob, and this is from a listener question. His name is Tom B. And he says, "What is Tom Bowles like on the Fox side? Has he driven you crazy?"
I knew. I knew when you said Tom B, it was coming from my buddy Tom Bowles, and he wants to know. And he wants to know what he's like on the Fox side.
Yeah.
Just how annoying is he? Just go sound off.
Rip him apart.
Look, he asks. He gives us some great information. He asks some great questions, and we work a lot together, and I've enjoyed working with him. And he looks at the great thing about him and everyone at Fox is that we certainly hear the criticisms, right? We certainly hear what people say, but I don't think you can ever say that that Fox people don't have passion. And you can argue with the product, right? You could say, well, they need to be tighter shots, or they need to be wider shots, or they need to talk about this, or they need to talk about that. But it never comes from a lack of not wanting to do a good job. It doesn't come from a lack of not wanting to put on the best telecast. And Tom is certainly part of that group who just brings an incredible passion for the sport and a passion for wanting to do the best job possible. And so it's a great to be surrounded by people like Tom.
You legit may have made him cry tears of happiness with that answer, Bob. So I'm probably gonna get a text in about a minute saying, "Nolan, I'm crying right now." So, but that's really cool to hear. I know he loves it, and he loves being with you and all of the Fox guys. So really, cool.
I think it showed to bring DW back, right? That I think if you've seen some of the posts on social just about the member of the Fox family, and people at Fox love DW. They loved what he brought to the telecasts for 20 years. They loved his passion for the sport and helped kind of invigorate and help people, either if they hadn't been involved with the sport before, learn the sport and help stoke their passion for it as well. And we have a pretty tight knit group at Fox, and the reason for it is because of the passion. And I think you saw that, in how much Daryl Waltrip was embraced, to come up to the booth for the first 30 laps or so on Sunday.
I mean, when I heard him say that, I mean, he felt like when I was like graduating high school, like 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, he still has it. He still got that fastball.
Got the fastball.
Yep, exactly. Bob, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. We'll be following all the latest from right now from Barber, but plans could change. But seriously though, thanks for coming on, and let's have you on again before the playoffs.
All right, thanks for having me.
Bob Pockrass from Fox Sports joining the Front Stretch Happy Hour program. When we come back, we are going to be pouring one out and giving our final thoughts. That is coming up after a word from Billy's Tequila.
From the agave fields of Jalisco, Billy's Tequila. Perfect in a margarita or straight over ice. Celebrate the race of life with Billy's. Use code RACER for 5% off at billystequila.com. Please enjoy responsibly.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch Happy Hour program. What an awesome guy. I mean, Bob is the man.
Yeah.
He's been in the business forever. And he's awesome. He's a really, really good guy. And big thanks to Bob at Bob Pockrass on Fox Sports. Alrighty, boys, our final thoughts, our final segment is in the air. Mr. Dalton Hopkins, what are you going to be pouring one out for?
Oh, thank God. I'm so glad you went to me first, because I think I'm going to take everybody's pour one out. I don't know, maybe not. I'm going to pour one out to Viking Motorsports, Don Sackett, Parker Retzlaff, Anthony Alfredo, for this weekend's NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. As long as I don't spill it, there we go. Those guys have grown so much, just such a small amount of time. Anthony Alfredo had an abysmal speed weeks, and I'm glad to see that that car has speed, and it looks like, over the next 20 races or however long it is for the O'Reilly series, chance that he's probably going to make the playoffs or make the chase. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Parker Retzlaff, who is a young driver. Looks like he's got a lot of talent. I think that team's going to go a long way here this season. So pouring one out for Viking Motorsports and Don Sackett.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Mr. Michael Massey, you're so excited. You're so excited. What are you going to be pouring one out for?
Well, there's one I had in mind. I might do two here if I don't steal yours.
You can do one. You can do one for me. I'll still do a toast, but I had to go to a funeral last week, and Billy's Tequila is great for a reception after a funeral.
Oh my gosh!
So highly recommend that. So I'm kind of out of Billy's Tequila right now, so I'm gonna have to use water, but highly recommend using Billy's Tequila for a funeral reception.
Who's yours? You can go ahead and go first. So
I was gonna give a throwback, or I was gonna give I'm gonna pour one out for Brennan Poole and Dean Thompson, and basically all of the Greg Biffle throwbacks, because they were absolutely phenomenal. They were really cool, and it was awesome to see. So I was gonna give it to Dean Thompson and Brennan Poole.
Okay. So I was gonna say one, but I'll say another first real quick because Bob got me thinking about him. Daryl Waldrop.
Yeah.
Somebody that when I was a kid watching the sport really helped get me into it, which is his passion and excitement and the boogity. I loved it as a kid. So to see him there at the track, that was awesome. But the guy I was originally going to do is Lee Pulliam, driving for Junior Motorsports this weekend at Martinsville in the O'Reilly series, because that is a guy who is one of the greatest late model racers ever, and he had to hang up driving so that to put people in his car, kind of like the Jordan Anderson or someone like that. Or, but now we've seen him start to get opportunities again. He won this past weekend at South Boston and is leading the points there now. So his return to driving after a couple years of not driving is going really well. So I think you could see Lee Pulliam be like another Josh Berry situation this weekend at Martinsville, where Josh won in the Junior Motorsports car at Martinsville, and they kind of put him on a trajectory to get the cup. So here's DW and Lee Pulliam. This is for you.
I love it. I love it, man. Good stuff. And you know what else we're gonna have for good stuff is that's gonna be the content that Mr. Michael Massey is gonna be bringing to us, along with our amazing producer filling in for Chris Graham this week, Mr. Trey Lyle. Mr. Michael Massey and Trey Lyle will be on the ground at Martinsville. Massey, give our viewers a little sneak peek of what you're going to be bringing to the table on frontstretch.com, my friend.
Well, I'm going to be writing a column first on I believe a Fire on Fridays column on the alleged NASCAR is rigged.
Oh God, why? Why?
Because old Jimbo down at the Piggly Wiggly told me that NASCAR gave Tyler Reddick more horsepower. I'm gonna be making fun of that and putting that to bed because it is. I do not believe it is rigged. And then I'll be at Martinsville this weekend, and we'll have some interviews. Still working out on who we'll get. I know we're gonna talk to Taylor Gray before the weekend. But Trey's got a couple interviews lined up as well. I think Roger Caruth and Zane Smith.
He's got his goat, Zane Smith.
Of course, he's got Zane Smith.
I mean, basically, it's what I expect from you when you go to the track for Chris Buescher. Come on, Dalton. I mean, come on.
I have never had a one-on-one with Chris Buescher.
Do it.
Okay.
Let's just say he's going to the bullpen.
Hey, they could have said Zane Smith was going to the bullpen too, and Trey reached out and asked and got him. So more power to you, Trey.
They're probably it's Trey again. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's our yearly chat. It's like me and Austin Dillon in Las Vegas. It's the yearly chat. But no, seriously. For all the latest content, frontstretch.com, Massey and Trey will be there. Dalton, are you going to be writing Thinking Out Loud this weekend?
I sure am. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of things coming out this weekend. I have got a exclusive interview between myself and Matt DiBenedetto coming out on Thursday. So check that out. Really, really cool stuff. We had a really, really great conversation. I love Matt. Great guy to talk to. So check that out when that comes out. And of course, Thinking Out Loud coming out this Sunday. Following the Martinsville race, where you can see all of my terrible opinions and you can all comment about how stupid I am. So thanks for tuning in.
Way to bring the mood down there, Dalton. Way to bring it down. For me, I got nothing going on. I'm just going to be doing my own thing.
Lazy.
Yeah, well.
Slacker.
I got family in town. My father-in-law is going to be on.
Whatever.
Saturday. He is. He is.
You can all join Mike Neff on the watch party.
And that is what I will be doing. I'll be joining the watch party. Mike Neff, myself, Trey maybe will be joining. I'm not sure. Dalton should be joining, but I don't know if he will.
I haven't been asked. I mean, I will. I can.
Oh, wait, no, Trey is not going to be there. Trey's going to be at the racetrack. Sorry.
Oh, my God. It's like the one of 2 weekends he's actually at the track?
I actually have breaking news. Trey's fiance, Storm, wants to do the watch party.
Oh, she finally got to do a weather report?
Dear God.
Well, apparently her and Mike Neff have this thing of she needs to have the weather report before the race, and she's never done it. I don't know. I got to talk to Neff about that.
Maybe I should ask Claire if she ever wants to be on it.
Sure. I'll bring Izzy then. I'll bring Izzy.
It'll be a fiance's watch party with Mike. You know what? I don't know if I want.
I don't know if we should.
Mike Neff.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
I don't know about
he
that.
might steal all of them.
Oh God. Before this gets out of hand,
a stud.
The watch party
Like,
every
that's
single
stuff.
week on our YouTube channel, and then coming up, Trey Lyle's Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle, special guest, my interview with Harrison Burton, if it will load in Slack, and if I can send it, that'd be great. So one way or another, I will get him the interview that I conducted with Harrison Burton in Las Vegas. Yeah, Through the Gears, as well as Stock Car Scoop every single Sunday on the Front Stretch Podcast Network. Big thanks to Trey Lyle for subbing for Chris Graham. Big thanks to Dalton Hopkins, Mike Massey, and of course, the legend, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Bob Pockrass. This was another edition of the Front Stretch Happy Hour program. We'll talk with you next week, presented by Billy's Tequila.